Hi, this is James Roguski, and it is the morning of Monday, October the 2nd, 2023. And I have some news to report from the fifth meeting of the Working Group for Amendments to the International Health Regulations. The news is that apparently they're having difficulty reaching agreement, and they seem to realize that they are not going to meet their deadline to submit a package of amendments by mid-January 2024. It appears that their solution to this failure on their behalf is that they're going to bend the rules to the point of breaking. There is a deadline in Article 55, which clearly states that any submission from a member state, or from the Director General must be submitted to all member nations 4 months in advance of the May World Health Assembly. Well, it appears that they realize that they're going to fail to meet that deadline. And so their solution is to try to bend the rules and get away with it. Well, no. The answer is no. You have failed. You are going to fail. You will not break the rules. You're going to miss your deadline. And you will not be allowed to break the rules because the rules were put in place for a reason. The amendments that are being proposed must be submitted 4 months in advance of the assembly so that there is adequate time for we, the people, to understand what those proposals are and to weigh in on them around the world. You do not get to change the rules and continue negotiating, changing everything in that 4 month period that is supposed to be reserved for public comment and comprehension of the proposals. The answer is no.
Dear colleagues, we have been operating with the understanding that the package of the proposed amendments resulting from the work of this group would be finalized by January 2024 to meet the 4 month deadline stated in Article 55. However, we believe that we all share the same sentiment that realistically, the whole package of amendments will probably not be ready by January 2024. We would like to ask the Secretariat whether procedurally we could continue working until the 76th World Health Assembly in May 2024.
I believe that the co-chair just misspoke and meant to say the 77th World Health Assembly in 2024.
I'd like to ask the Secretariat to provide some guidance in this matter.
Thank you, Co-Chair. The Health Assembly, in decision WHA 75-9, requested the working group, and I quote, to establish a program of work consistent with decision EB 153 and taking into consideration the report of the IHR Review Committee to propose a package of targeted amendments for consideration by the 77th World Health Assembly in accordance with Article 55 of the International Health Regulations, close quote. Article 55 of the IHR, which is referred to in Decision 75-9, sets out two procedural requirements relating to proposed amendments. The first one is that, quote, proposals for amendments shall be submitted to the Health Assembly for its consideration, close quote. The second one is that, open quote, the text of any such proposed amendment shall be communicated to all states parties by the Director General at least 4 months before the Health Assembly at which it is proposed for consideration, close quote. Again, that's the text of the relevant article of the IHR, Article 55.
Please take a moment to read Article 55 of the International Health Regulations, which makes it clear that there is a 4 month deadline before the World Health Assembly meets in May of 2024, and they have every intention of breaking that rule. listen to them attempt to come up with some sort of language to justify their failure.
Article 55 of the IHR, including this 4-month requirement, has never been applied to amendments submitted collectively by a subdivision of the Health Assembly, which is exactly what the WGIHR is. The WGIHR is a subdivision of the Health Assembly under Rule 41 of the Rules of Procedure of the Health Assembly. Thus, there are no precedents to rely on with respect to the manner in which the 4-month requirement set out in Article 55 should be satisfied. That is to say, Article 55 has been applied to amendments proposed by a state party or by the Director General, but never by a subdivision of the Health Assembly. Indeed, it has only been applied with respect to it has not been applied with respect to any subdivision. This is a first. Accordingly, an option for consideration by the working group would be for the Director General to communicate in January 2023.
I believe that he just misspoke and meant to say January 2024.
The following documents to all states parties. First, the proposed amendments as originally submitted by member states and already communicated by the Secretariat to all states parties by email. And second, the proposed amendments as they might be shown on the screen at the closure of WGIHR 6. This approach would allow work to continue in the WGIHR, if necessary, up until the 77th Health Assembly itself, recognizing the importance of complementarity with the I&B process, which, as we know, is mandated to work up until the 77th WHA. In addition to that, the working group may consider requesting the Secretariat to include in the January communication from the Director General a clarification according to which the amendments from the final session of the WGIHR, which could be conceivably as late as May 2024, if necessary, would allow these final results of such a session to be formally submitted to the 77th World Health Assembly. A note on this deadline of the 77th World Health Assembly. If the deadline is not met, the WGIHR would be expected to report to the Health Assembly in May 2024 that agreement could not be reached on the proposed amendments. This deadline cannot be changed as it was set out in decision WHA 75-9. This approach just outlined for your consideration would fulfill the 4-month requirement in its purpose as prescribed by Article 55 of the IHR, while at the same time allowing the working group to continue its consideration and negotiation of the proposed amendments, including possible modifications to the package that would be communicated to states parties. Should this approach be considered satisfactory, the working group may wish to consider reflecting it in the report of this session of the WGIHR. Thank you, co-chairs.
Very simply stated, we, the people of the world, cannot allow the working group for amendments to the international health regulations to even remotely believe that they will get to break the rules and avoid the deadline, which would afford each and every one of us 4 months to review their work before it's considered by the 77th World Health Assembly. The answer is simply no.